What's up, guys? Smash Adams here, coming at you with a brand new deck profile, and this time it's going to be on Cyber Dragons. Now, growing up in the GX era, especially when fusions were like one of the most fluent mechanics next to tribute summons in the past, Cyber Dragons was one of those decks that caught my eye next to the Horus the Black Flame Dragon. Cyber Dragons were really cool back then. Even now, especially with the support that they got. A lot of people would thinking, wait, is this deck still playable? Yeah, especially with Rampage Dragon and Infinity floating everywhere. Yeah, it's worth it. Try it. ABCs are running it. I don't see why you can't run it now. Cyber Dragons are pretty good. The deck is pretty explosive, even though it lost a little bit of leverage with Upstart being at 1. You still have options just to still make the deck flow, because you do. And I will state this, you are heavily reliant, if not on just getting consistent hands or just getting draw power alone, just to get a flexible play, just to make the deck compete, if not just win a majority of your duels. And the one thing I want to keep in mind is this is one of these OTK decks where you have to go second, unless you have a good excuse to summon Cyber Dragon Infinity in advance to be on the safe side. So just to point that out. But hands down, Cyber Dragons are awesome. Try them out. They're really good, especially with the support that came out over time. Anyways, I'm going to show you all the deck, explain a couple of my tech choices, and without further ado, here is Cyber Dragons. To start off, of course, we've got triple Cyber Dragon. I can't stress enough how important this guy is. He's the deck's namesake and one of your main bosses to go for. You can summon him off of Nova. You can summon him off of his own effect if your opponent has another monster on their field and you have nothing. You're going to be heavily reliant on him for a majority of your plays, if not just summoning him right off the bat. 3 Cyber Dragon Core, mainly just to get that repair plan, and also for a machine dupe target as well, because he counts as a Cyber Dragon on the field. And the cool thing is, after that, you can use him as a unit for Infinity. But also, one thing I want to bear in mind, if he's in the graveyard and you have no monsters on your field while your opponent has one, you can basically banish this and you can summon a Cyber Dragon from your deck. So he has a lot of options to go for. Next we've got 3 Cyber Dragon Drei, or Dr. Drei, which I call him. Cyber Dragon Drei is pretty awesome. He's an 1800 beater. He becomes a level 5 the minute you normal summon him, which is pretty good. Cyber Dragon Infinity. Hope you all heard that. Anyway, usually this in Instant Fusion is never a gimmick. And the cool thing is when he's banished from the graveyard off of a card effect that revolves around him, you can target a Cyber Dragon of your choice, and it's basically impervious from battle or destruction, so it basically can't die for that turn. But the one thing you need to bear in mind is, unless you have Infinity, you have to be mindful of targeting abilities, because those kind of abilities are what's wandering the format now, especially in the future with new support coming out. So Cyber Dragon Drei is pretty awesome. 1 tech of Cyber Dragon Zwei, why not? It's worth it, especially since it's another name and it can become a Cyber Dragon just by revealing a spell card from your hand. You don't rely on the battle effect as much, but it's mainly used as a fusion material if need be. And now for the non-Cyber Dragons, we run 3 Galaxy Soldier. Why not? It's good for a first turn play with Infinity, like I mentioned earlier, and also just for recruiting another Galaxy Soldier. There's no limit to how many of these you can spam out, but the recruiting ability you can only use once per turn. So, yeah, that's the only downer to it, but it's worth it. 1 tech of Electromagnetic Turtle, mainly because you are going to run into those situations where you won't have a flexible play, and Magnetic Turtle can save you from battle damage. So if your opponent tries to OTK you, you're safe from harm with this card. And lastly, for the non-machine monster we have is 1 Honest. A lot of decks don't run this, but hey, Honest is there for a reason, because a majority of your lineup is light, and a majority of your fusion monsters are light, so why not? And Cyber Dragon Infinity's light, even though he's an Xyz monster. Anyway, Simply put, your whole front line is light, so running Honest is never a gimmick either. I would try running a second one, but I'm not sure what to take out yet, so running one never, it never gave me a problem either. So that's it for the monster lineup. Now onto the spells. 3 Power Bond. I can't stress enough how important this card is for your OTKs. You're going to be relying on this just to get your, if not your Rampage Dragon plays, but anything that revolves around just getting heavy set machine type fusion monsters. Cyber Dragon, Rampage Dragon, Overdragon, you name it, you've got it with this card. Just as long as you're heavily relying on Cyber Dragon in general, this is basically your ace in the hole. Next, we got 3 Repair Plant to recruit whatever light machines of your choice. You have to have a Cyber Dragon in order for that to work, which is not really an issue since you are going to be sending a lot of stuff to the graveyard anyway. So, yeah. Anyway, 3 Fusion Conscription. Basically, what it does, you reveal a fusion monster from your extra deck, and you get a fusion requirement from the list. From the card listed on it. So you reveal Cyber Dragon, for example, you get a Cyber Dragon. Anything that revolves around Cyber Dragon, you've got it. Twin Dragon, Rampage Dragon, Cyber Dragon, Overdragon, you name it, it's there. 2 instant fusions because you do have 2 targets for it, and you can go into an infinity play real easily with it. Next we got 2 overload fusions. A lot of decks run just one of these and cybernetic fusion support. But I found that fusion support, it wastes a lot of your life points next to Power Bond alone. So that's the thing I found with Cyber Dragons. You don't want to be spending too many life points just to get what you need. Usually to be on the safe side, you just have to worry about Power Bond. And Overload Fusion, it just gives you that upper hand depending on what you have. Since you are going to be reliant on Rampage Dragon anyway, a majority of your duels. 2 machine dupes because you only run 1 target for it, and that is of course Cyber Dragon Core, which is real easy to use just to get into Infinity and then use it as material for Infinity later on. 2 MSTs. I wish these were Twin Twisters, that way Repair Plan could be more live, but hey, I gotta work until then, work with what you have. But it's still good because back row is still a problem to this day, especially with pendulums running around. Yeah, it never gave me problems. 1 Raigeki to clear the board. 1 Foolish Burial just to make Repair Plant live. And like I mentioned with Twin Twister as well, because you are going to be reliant on Cyber Dragons via from the field and graveyard. 1 Upstart Goblin for draw power. Usually the 1,000 point gain is not a problem since they're going to lose those points anyway. 1 Day of Peace. I'm mad that your opponent gets a draw off of it, but hey, I mean, you really have no worries since you are going to have a flexible hands majority of your duels anyway. And lastly, 1 Limiter Removal because a majority of your plays will be relying on machines. So there's a reason why this card is at 1 because it can make all your monsters powerhouses. And lastly, for traps, which is pretty basic, 3 Reckless Greed. Sure, your draw phases are skipped, but hey, consistency is the key to make this deck flow. Now for the fusions. The fusion lineup is pretty big, but it's worth it. 2 Rampage Dragons. I would run 3. I have 3, but I couldn't find space for the other. And this guy is pretty broken. He can pop 2 spells on your opponent's side, and he basically can attack 3 times on that same turn. So if you have Power Bond, you have no worries, because the majority of your plays, if your opponent has only 1 monster and you just clear their board, that's game over. 1 Twin Dragon, another one of my favorites, becomes instant 56 off of Power Bond and can just deal a bunch of damage straight to the face. You basically can't run from this card, especially if they're wide open. Cyber Dragon, my favorite one, because with this Power Bond and Limiter Removal, it's lights out, because even if your opponent has their monster in defense, it's 16,000. How are you going to get over that? 1 Overdragon just for safekeeping. It can become a powerhouse in any given situation. 1 Fortress Dragon because I do run Jizukuru in my side, but I don't feel like putting up my side. It's really good nonetheless, and especially against Cosmo matchups, since they do run machines anyway, it's worth it. And of course, 2 Panzer Dragon because you do run them in instant fusion, and they're one of the best targets. I would run Paracycloid, but I just couldn't find the room for it. I maybe take out a Panzer Dragon if need be, but for now these are working out great, mainly because they're light machines. And next we got, for the Cyber engine, we got 2 Nova Dragons, because they're for the requirements for Infinity, and mainly to get your whatever Cyber Dragon of your choice from the graveyard. And next we got 2 Infinity and Beyond. Yeah, I'm sorry, I had to. You're going to be relying on this card a lot. It's basically a 101 and a strike built into one. So whenever they activate, just get rid of a unit. And there's no limit to how many units you can put on this card. It's super broken, let me tell you. 1 Volcasaurus for burn damage. 1 Pleiades because you can easily make it. I mean, it's 2 light level 5 monsters, why not? And lastly, to end it all, 1 Gaia Dragon, just to put it to a close, and basically to say, yeah, burn damage off of Volcasaurus, and then piercing afterwards. Yeah, good luck bypassing that. So anyway, that's it for the deck, guys. Hope you all enjoyed. Please like and favorite if you did. If you have any suggestions, leave them. I'm open to them. I may make an ABC version of this in the future, hopefully, if ABCs don't get hit, because I was able to pick up a few ABC pieces of the deck, and I may run a separate version of it, or maybe mix it with this, but until then, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Only time will tell, but Cyber Dragons are really legit, this format. Anyways, hit me up in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, and until next time, this is Smash Adams, signing out.